Hello, Automating Success Show followers. I am super excited. We have great guest today. Bryan Clayton owns GreenPal. Bryan, go ahead and introduce yourself to the Automating Success followers.
Yeah. Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me on the show. So I'm CEO, co-founder of a mobile app called GreenPal. And so GreenPal in one sentence is the Uber for lawn mowing. So if you're a homeowner and you need to get your grass mowed rather than calling around on Craigslist or Facebook or Yelp, you just download GreenPal, pop in your address, you'll get quotes back in minutes. You can hire the lawn care service you want to work with and just push a button and get the grass cut. I guess you could say we're a 9-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at the business for almost a decade. And now we're nationwide in the United States, several 100,000 people using the app to get their lawn mowed and doing multiple 8 figures a year in revenue, self-funded, profitable, haven't taken on any outside capital, have bootstrapped the business every step of the way. And it's been a long journey, but we've got a good marketplace going nationwide now. And I'm glad that we've kind of taken the path that we did.
Oh, good for you, self-funded. That's amazing to be hitting those revenue figures that you are. So, kind of undress a little bit with this. Like, what gave you the idea to do this?
Yeah.
What's the background? What made you decide? Okay, this there's a need for our solution in the market space.
I think that if you're starting a new technology company or you're inventing a brand new product from scratch, it can help to solve your own problem, which is kind of what I was doing in the early days. My first company was a lawn mowing business. I ran a grass cutting service all through high school and all through college, and little by little grew that into one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee where I live. Over a 15-year period of time, grew this little lawn mowing business that I started in high school into a company that was over 150 employees, eventually getting that company over $10 million a year in revenue. And in 2013, the business was acquired by one of the largest landscaping companies in the United States. And so after I was able to get the business sold, I took some time off. I basically retired. I didn't have to work anymore, which was nice. But I got bored and I realized, wow, there's something missing. I'm wired to love business. I'm wired to want to be back in the game. What now? And I thought, well, I don't want to start another like construction based blue collar hand to hand combat style blue collar business. I want to start a technology company because I was envious. I thought technology companies were easier. I thought that they would be smoother and simpler because, hey, it's just code. It's not people. But boy, I didn't know what I didn't know. And it was almost naivete as an asset. And the idea for GreenPal was one that I had in my head for a couple of years because I saw what Uber and Airbnb and Lyft and some of these other companies were doing with real world interactions and making them easier, smoother, and cheaper and quicker with technology. I thought this needs to exist for the lawn mowing business. I know it. I know it'll work. And recruited two co-founders. We went to work on the idea. And it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. That we were confronted with the reality really quick that this was going to be a challenge. But we stuck with it. We didn't give up. And the first 3 or 4 years were really, really tough getting the marketplace going. But here we are, a decade in, and we've got a good company going.
So, what were some of the upfront challenges that you didn't plan for or to expect going from a blue collar background industry to the tech space?
Yeah, one big thing that I didn't realize was that there's a big difference between running a small business or a big business that's traditional in nature, that you're going head to head with your competition. There's a known strategy. You're just kind of out executing them, and maybe it might be a construction company or a restaurant or a hotel, or it could be a remodeling service. Anything. These are small businesses and they're hard. And you go in, you roll up your sleeves, and you slug it out, and that's really tough. And I did pretty well in that arena. I had just basically outworked my competitors for 15 years. I basically outserved them. I basically offered a better service to my customers for cheaper than they could. And I figured that out. And I thought after I sold this business that was doing over $10 million a year in revenue, I thought, well, shoot, I know everything there is to know about business. I'm going to kick ass in this second company because it's going to be software based and it's easier. Here's the thing I didn't know. When you are starting a software business, most of the time you're inventing a brand new product from scratch. a brand new thing that does not exist. And people don't know how to use it. People don't even know it's available. People don't even think to use it. And I didn't understand the dynamics of that until I got into the trenches of building GreenPal. Was that, wow, this is a lot harder because we're kind of having to make up the strategy as we go. There's nobody else that we can copy and innovate on top of. We kind of have to build it from the ground up. And the only way to do that is just through like going from failure to failure, just through a trial and error process without a loss of enthusiasm. And it takes a long time to figure these things out. And particularly self-funding it made it even more challenging. So that was the main thing I was confronted with. Was this is very different than running a traditional business. This is doing all of those things that were hard on top of figuring out like what customers need, what they'll pay for, how to get them to use it, how to make it super clear and understandable for them to like get it in 2 or 3 seconds when they sign up. All of these things were a lot more challenging than I thought they would be.
So there's a lot of things you said there that I'm going to come back to, and I'm going to say it out loud. So maybe you won't let me forget it. First, I think it's amazing. You know, you look like a pretty young guy that you were able to scale a business, sell it. I think it's interesting that you bring up the fact that, you know, you retired pretty young, but you needed to get back in the game. Entrepreneurs, we are wired differently. My dad says to me all the time, you know, you got to think about retirement one day. And I tell him I don't, it's almost scary to think about retirement because I think I'll be bored. But, you know, what I want to make sure we decide, I want to come back to all those things, but for the people that, you know, just hearing about GreenPal, kind of walk us through, if somebody had that app or customer has that app, what they're going to do step by
Yeah.
step. Like,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the day, when you make an app, what I found was, and I don't know if you know this or not, but you know, we have our own app that is in development for the robotic mowing side. And I think the hardest thing for me, and I want you to expand on it once you explain, sorry, I'm throwing a lot at you at once here, but you know, with apps, you have to think very linear instead of like kind of spider webbed, how most entrepreneurs think, where like everything connects to something. What I'm finding with an app's got to be step to step to step to step. So, you know, explain the app and then explain if you had that same difficulty when you developed it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like there's a big gap between founder and entrepreneur logic and customer logic. And so you start off thinking like, oh, everybody's just going to get it. And everybody will understand how to use it. So I'll just build it like how I think it should be. And you're quickly confronted with the reality that there's a huge gap between your logic and what I would call company logic, and then the end user, the customer logic. And so the only way to like close that gap is just to like literally try to get in the trenches with your users and make it really dead ass easy for them to contact you and tell you where you suck, to tell you where they're confused, to tell you what they wish it would do, to tell you what they expected it to do. And you have to make it really simple for them to give, like frictionless for them to give you that feedback, particularly in the early days, because that's all you have. That's your free R&D department. That's kind of like the only like lifeblood you have to figure out your way through the darkness of developing this piece of technology from scratch. And that's one thing that we actually did do correctly in the early days, only because I was terrified that we were going to screw it up. And we were reading every book we could get our hands on. And there was 2 books that stood out. One is The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, which is a popular book. And another book is called The Startup Owner's Manual by a guy named Steve Blank, who was kind of the mentor to Eric Ries. These 2 books, you know, there's probably 3 or 4 books these guys have written, and we're talking 2,000 pages of information. Really, you can kind of distill them down into one thing: is get out of the building, like get out of your office, get out of wherever you're working, and like talk to your customers, talk to your users, and make it really easy and frictionless for them to tell you where they were let down, what they wish it would do, where they're confused. And then you can like adapt and iterate on top of the technology and make it better and better and better based on that feedback. And so that's one thing that we did do correctly in the early days. It just took a long time to kind of chew through that and get it to where we started and where it ended up needing to be, which is where we're at now. And we're still not like done. We're making it better and better every day, still off of the back of user feedback. And so, you know, when you're starting a new company from scratch, building a new piece of technology, building a new app, this is kind of table stakes. You have to do it this way. And this stuff sounds common sense. sounds like, everybody would just know to do it this way, but we didn't. And most people don't. Most people just kind of like go into the trenches and like get behind a laptop, build what they think the thing should be, and then just get pissed off because it didn't like blow up and, overnight. And so that, those two books, Startups Owner's Manual and Lean Startup by Eric Ries are like foundational to this kind of customer development methodology that we followed and got us where we are today.
Well, that's impressive. Yeah, I think that, like you said, at the end of the day, you've got to simplify it and consider what someone that's never been part of our industry, never developed an app, how they're just going to pick it up and use
Oh,
it,
yeah.
So
yeah. One thing, and I'll add to that is that you have what's called the 3-second rule. And so when somebody downloads the app or comes to the website or like comes to your landing page off of Google, you have 3 seconds, and that might be generous. It's probably more like 2 or 1.5 seconds to answer 3 questions. Where am I? What can I do? And why is it important? So you have to like communicate all of those things. Where am I? Lawn care made easy. Okay. What does that mean? Why does it matter? Okay. Get 5 quotes in 60 seconds. Okay. Why is it important? Book a lawn mowing for the same day for your grass, even if it's 4 feet tall. Okay. Now I get it. 3 seconds. That's literally all you have. There isn't scrolling. There isn't reading. There's like 2 seconds.
They're not going to self-educate. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 seconds. Where am I? What can I do? And why does it matter? Like you have to answer those 3 questions, and it doesn't matter what kind of technology product you have. You have to be able to like think along those lines.
So being in the industry and understanding, okay, so you're first to me, you make this app. So first thing you have to do is figure out how to make that app and how to make people understand where you're at and what you do in 3 seconds or less. But the next thing then is once people start to realize this, then you've got to probably figure out people that are going to solve the problem, and the problem, like you just said, of possibility of 4-foot tall grass. So how did you blend that into your app? Like how do you handle all of that?
Yeah.
So like I said, walk me through once the customer picks, how do you seam that all together then?
There's probably 1,000 problems that can go wrong between I've got 4-foot tall grass and the grass looks great and push a button and it makes it happen. Most people wouldn't think that there is, but there literally is 1,000 things that could happen. Equipment got stolen, rained that day, just didn't feel like working that day. Didn't realize the grass was so tall, the gate size too small. Let the dog out. My child was sick. My truck broke down. My helper didn't show up. My helper got arrested. You name it, like 1,000 things. Man, that's probably being conservative. It's probably more like 10,000 things. And so as time went on, we would triage around these little things that would go wrong, and we would see them over and over and over again. And we would literally, we have in-app chat and email and phone support for our users. And in the early days, it was me and my co-founder doing all the support 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. And you would see 100 problems a day, but you would start to like collate them down to like, okay, here's the 5 most important things that we have right now. There's 95 other things, but here's the 5 that we see most often. And then we would just work on those 5. And we would do that over and over and over again until we built a series of workflows that pretty much treated every issue at its root cause. And one of the things that the Lean Startup talks about is applying this lean manufacturing that Toyota invented. And it's the concept of the 5 whys. And it doesn't matter what business you're in, you can use this methodology to help make your business better. And so you just ask why 5 times. And so for us, it would be like, okay, customer is pissed off because they were supposed to get their grass cut on Thursday, but didn't actually get their grass cut on Thursday. Why didn't that happen? Well, the service provider didn't actually know that he was supposed to be there on Thursday. Okay, well, why did that happen? Well, because we emailed him and he didn't get the email, and so he actually, believe it or not, doesn't use email. A lot of service providers just don't use email. God love them. And so, okay, he didn't use email. Okay, Well, okay, why did he didn't know he didn't need to check his email? Okay, well, it turns out he doesn't use email. Okay, fine. Now we need to send him a text message. Okay, well, we sent him a text message. He didn't get that. So why didn't he know? Well, okay, well, turns out we need to build a check-in system that happens every single morning where the service provider understands here's your 5 stops for the day. Confirm you're going to be there. And if you're not, then we're going to send it back out to somebody else. And so, like, going through that process of asking why 5 times over 1,000 different problems and then building the technological solution to fix it at its root cause is how we made it better and better and better, all the way down for I let the dog out to gate size too small, lawn's too tall, my child got sick, you name it. Like all of these problems that occur, we would go to the root cause and fix it from a software standpoint. And that's one of the cool things about building a technology product is you have the ability to do that. Whereas, my former business, you would just beat your head against the wall every day dealing with the same problems. That's one of the nice things about technology business is that you can solve these problems at their root cause.
So, I mean, so here, like, how do you solve the gate, right? I think of that easily, like if somebody's doing this on an app, you brought it up a couple times and I've thought about it too. Do you make the customer take a picture of the gate? Is there a checklist for the customer to confirm if they have a gate, to give a measurement? Like, explain that because I think it's a relevant question to how it works.
Yeah, gate's a hard one. Seems like a simple one. It's a hard one. How wide is your gate? Simple question. I don't know feet, inches.
Yeah.
I think it's 2 feet. Most people don't know.
Yeah.
Most people don't know. So we go through a decision tree process. Like, do you have a fence? Yes or no? No. Okay. You don't go down that rabbit hole. Yes. Okay. Do you have a gate? Yes. Okay. How many people can fit through the gate at one time? I think 2. Okay. Well, that tells the service provider that it's 2 people wide, or 3 or 4 or 5. It's a wide gate. And so even going through like that decisioning solves it 9 times out of 10, but you still have like the 10% where it gets screwed up. And so it's like, we're still trying to like figure out, okay, how do we, because here's the thing. If you say to the homeowner, take a picture of your gate, they'll say, hey, screw this. I'll just do it the old way. Like they're not going to go out and take a picture of it. They're just not, so you have to make it dead ass simple for homeowners to use. That's what we have found.
Well, that's a great point, and you are right about that. And I like that you figured out something to relate it to, like how many people.
Yeah.
No, so that's great. So I'm assuming there's something that merges payment to doing it. So is this like reoccurring, or are these a lot of people just I need something done today? What is your main customer base at GreenPal?
Yeah. If you're a homeowner and you want to use GreenPal, it goes like this. You can use it one time as an audition and to see if you like the experience. And then after that, you have to book ongoing services with your provider. You can't just use it for a la carte, one ad hoc mowings, because that's not how the lawn mowing business works. Service providers can't make a living doing that. When you're a service provider and you go out and you mow a yard for the first time, you lose money on that visit. The edges are all screwed up. You don't know the property. It's usually probably 2 foot tall. It's just like there's all kinds of deferred maintenance that you have to catch up on that first visit. And so service providers don't make money on the first visit. They may break even. And so the expectation for homeowners is that it should be like Uber, and they should just say, it's been 4 weeks. I think I need a mowing. And they'll order one mowing, And when we started, that's how we started. It was kind of funny. We didn't require them to set up an ongoing cadence of services. And that's what people would do. They would literally wait like 5 weeks between mowings and like, the grass is 2 feet tall. I need a mowing, kind of like a haircut. And they would just push a button and expect it to be done the next day flawlessly. And so we had to like adapt to that and say, no, you can use it for the first mowing. That goes well. Then you book it for every week for the rest of the season, or every 2 weeks at a maximum. And if you don't want to do that, then this is not a good fit for you. And you didn't like that service provider? Okay, well, you can get quotes one more time this year. We literally only let them get quotes 2 times per year. Otherwise, consumers will just beat it to death and get quotes like every week and try a different service provider every 2 weeks. And that pisses off lawn care services. So we really take a lawn pro first approach. We really bias towards the needs and wants of the lawn care professional first. Once they love it, then we have a product that consumers can then order them off the shelf, so to speak. That's how we approach it.
So what markets do you have certain markets you're heavy in? Are you national? Like what are your heavy markets right now?
We're national. We're in every major city in the United States. You can order a lawn mowing service from any city with a pro team and beyond. In terms of our liquidity and traction and market penetration, we're probably really big in 10 cities, and it's only a matter of the correlation is time spent in market. So we started in Nashville, Tennessee, which is where we're from. We spent 4 years in Nashville just figuring it out, just in Nashville, Tennessee. Here I had a $10 million landscaping business. I sold it. And then I went to like trying to beg 20 people to use a crappy app to order a lawn mowing service in Nashville for 4 years. It was really humbling. But we spent 4 years in Nashville figuring out how to make the thing work, and slowly began bolting on cities after that: Atlanta, Tampa, Chicago, Charlotte, Columbus, Cleveland. Like, I guess how we rolled out. And so those like 10 cities we first started in drive most of the transactions today because they have matured the longest. But as time goes on, the other cities catch up because more people use it. More people are delighted from, more homeowners are delighted from the use of it, and then they refer it, and then more contractors use it. More contractors use it. Price goes down. The more that price goes down, more homeowners use it, and then so on. So it's like a flywheel. And so it takes time for that to happen. But in every major city in the United States, you can order a lawn mowing on GreenPal.
Is there a typical size yard you see usually using GreenPal, like square footage area wise, or is it all over the place?
Yeah, it depends. You get into Southern California or Florida, their lawns are, or even like, the Northeast, their lawns are pretty cookie cutter, 5,000 square feet. And so those are just like bang, bang, bang. And then you get into markets like Nashville or Atlanta or Charlotte, where it can be anywhere from 7,000 square feet to 5 acres. And for us, the bigger the lawn, the smaller the lawn, more traditional lawn, the better the fit. If it's a big property, the contractor's looking at this thing from Google Maps and Google Street View. They can't really get a sense for it. And the more like cookie cutter, the better. And that's really where contractors make their money. If you can put together 40 10,000 square foot lawns, $27 or $37 each, and you can do 30 of those in a day or 25 of those in a day, you can make some pretty good money. And that's where we really have our best impact is organizing all of that and getting it put into one route, getting all the CRM in place, making all of that just happen in the background, and getting paid quickly is where we have our best like value proposition for contractors and homeowners too. Like if you're a homeowner and you live in a working class neighborhood, on the east side of Nashville, and you just want a basic lawn mowing every 2 weeks, it's pulling teeth to get somebody to show up. Whereas you go on GreenPal, there's 20 guys on GreenPal that are doing 300 of those. And they have like 30 in your zip already. Yeah, sure. I'm all about it. So that's really where we resonate.
That's interesting. I mean, the biggest hemorrhage, I think, for most outdoor professionals is travel time, 2-3 people in a vehicle, windshield time from site to site. So yeah, if you can just park a truck in the trailer and walk right down the street, there's a real value proposition.
Yeah. Windshield time,
sides,
windshield time, and also this. I'm mowing your yard every 2 weeks for $35, and then I got to reconcile that. I gotta mail you an invoice or try to remember to send you a PayPal invoice or a Stripe or a Square or a Venmo, and I gotta reconcile in my QuickBooks. Did you pay me my $70? And then if you didn't, I gotta hassle you for the $70. It's not even worth doing. It's not even worth. It's not even worth messing with. Honestly,
no, you're right, and you know what? Most consumers know that too, and that's why a lot of times they don't pay for services.
They don't pay it
because they realize You're
Yeah.
just not going to fight for it. It's not worth your time.
I got to hassle you for my $70. Get out of here. And so,
So
and
how,
so, and so, so,
how
so
do you guys
GreenPal.
streamline that? Yeah, go ahead.
So when a homeowner comes on, they got to put down a valid credit card. They can't hire anybody until they have a valid credit card and it's pre-approved to pay for it. And so when you come on to GreenPal, payment's already taken care of. And so the contractor gets paid within 24 hours of all the work they do on a rolling basis. They don't have to sit down at night and like, okay, I've got Mrs. Smith and 37128 that owes me for 4 cuts. Now I got to hassle them for my $140 and times dozens of these people. Lawn guy is the last person to get paid. And so that's the big value proposition to contractors is like, hey, you can cobble 100, 200, 300 of these stops together and just worry about one thing, showing up when you're supposed to, doing a good job, and then everything else is handled for you. And so like that's the value proposition to the contractors. And only until we have that locked in can consumers hire them off the shelf. If contractors don't like using it, then you don't have a service for consumers. There's nothing for them to order because nobody's going to show up. And if they do, they're going to do a crappy job.
Well, I think it's great that you actually help a lot of these contractors with cash flow, because that's the other thing too. Like most of the time people don't want to pay upfront or they want to pay you, 30 days in the rears, like you said, you get 4 built up. Yeah. So I mean, I think it sounds great. So, then
to your point,
offer,
the best fit contractor for our service is like Peter in a pickup, Chuck in a truck, Molly in a mower. We have a lot of female vendors that use our platform. And, it's the best $1,000 a week side hustle you're ever going to get. And so that's like the sweet spot. But we do have a lot of bigger companies that, are maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 people that use GreenPal as like an extra $100,000 a year, just in stable cash flow, because these big contracts that they think they want, are stretching them out 60 and 90 days. They have to have some sort of regular cash flow to make payroll. And we see that a lot. There's several guys there's 2 or 3 guys making over $1 million a year on GreenPal. And so, like, it's the wide variety of contractors, the majority of which are like the long tail, very fragmented, smaller providers. But we see bigger services using it as a means of steady cash flow through the season, because to your point, these bigger contracts stretch them out 60 days. 60 days if you're lucky. 60 days is good.
That's what they do. Yeah, no, yeah. You're absolutely right. And I mean, look, so I've got 100 people at Langton, and I have people that all they do is collect money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have someone that's on payroll, and that's all she does is collections. So you have to have some pretty big scale as far as a company to be able to cover that. So
right.
For you, even when you bring up the 20 people and whatever, yeah, that kind of makes sense, because that's one of the things I talk to all the time when I'm trying to get people into robotic lawn mowing is, a lot of landscapers are profitable when it's Molly. What'd you call it? Molly and
a mower.
Molly and a mower. Yeah.
Come on, man. Molly and a mower.
Chuck in a truck. That was the one in a truck that I like.
Chuck in a truck and Molly in a mower.
Yeah. So Chuck in a truck doesn't really have much overhead, and it's easy for Chuck in a truck to grow until they stop getting paid, and then all of a sudden Chuck in a truck can't put fuel in the truck because they're not getting any money. And I do think it's great what you have, and I tell you, Bryan, as I sit here and listen to you, if I didn't have to install wire every place to robotically lawnmower, I'd be telling you I'll probably sign up for GreenPal, because I'll just drop robots off. And I think there'll be a day where I could probably sign up for it anyways with some of the stuff I'm working on. But for now, it's good exploratory. I think
wires are going away. Wires are going away.
They are going away. Yeah. But I think it's genius and it's brilliant what you did, because you figured out a way to make the consumer pay upfront. Because one of the things you have to realize, and I always tell landscapers, is consumers have been screwed over by a landscaper or a non-professional company too often. And the fact that GreenPal is a tech company, and you have an online presence. So if they are upset or the guy or girl doesn't show up, the people trust the fact that since it's app based, they're still going to get taken care of. And I believe that's likely why they'll give you that card up front. Do you want to maybe elaborate on that? How, because you were on the other side where you were a $10 million business, and now you're seeing these people put a card out front.
Yeah.
Explain why you think that happens, you know?
Yeah. Couple of things. So the first thing is put a pin in the at what point does a contractor get to the point where they can hire a full-time like accounts payable person? And I remember this when I had my first business. We were doing like $6-7 million a year, and I hired this lady who was who was going to be like a secretary, office manager type. And I hired her, and she was just, it wasn't a good cultural fit. She was just very gruff, very difficult to be around, was rude to me and everybody that worked there. And it was like I was getting ready to fire her. And it was like a week before I was about to fire her, and she goes, Did you know that there's like 25 people that owe this company like $400,000? Did you know that? And I was like, yeah, I know that. It pissed me off. She goes, well, I think I should call them. And I'm like, you know what, Susan, call them. And if you can get them to pay me the 400 some odd $1,000 they owe us, I'll give you 5% of it, anything you can collect. And I did. And I think I paid her like 25, 30 grand. And sure enough, she got those people to pay, because she wore their ass out for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And that's what and then we ended up hiring her full time. We put her in a room by herself, so she didn't interact. She wasn't like a cancer on the culture of the company. But she did nothing but collections full time. And she made the company 10 times her salary in terms of just getting paid for the work we did.
Yeah.
So crazy as that sounds, it took a full-time person.
No, so listen, and it's not crazy. So I've got to expand on it here because you're going to laugh at this, because I want to see if it's happened to you too. So, in my person that does that, I'll get a call from a customer, and they'll be like, "Hey," and I'm going to leave the person's name out of it, but hey, who is this person that's calling me? I do not like her, and she's extremely rude. And I'm like, I know who that person calls. And the fact that you're calling me, the only reason she's calling you is you owe me money, and I think it's kind of rude that she's got to call you because she's only calling you after 90 days, and
90,
they're like
90 days.
And they're like, well, I think that, there could be a little more tact used. And I'm like, listen,
no,
I'll make you a promise. If you never go that far past due again, you'll never talk to her again.
Ever.
Ever. And that's what
world.
I think. I think I get a kick out of the people that are like pissed off that the person calling saying pay us is rude.
Yeah.
And they're not thinking of how rude it is that they owe you thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. And unfortunately, it's the world that us as people in the landscaping industry in some shape or form live in. So to your question, I thought I'd share that story. It sounds like you have the same person on your team. It's sad, but you got to have that person. And so that's what GreenPal exists for. And the thing is if you're in the residential lawn mowing business, doing these weekly or every 2 week stops, you can't afford somebody that makes 80 grand, 75 grand to be accounts payable person. You just can't. So if you're going to play in that game, GreenPal's good because it keeps you paid. And so the question is like, well, why will people prepay on GreenPal and not prepay Joe Don's lawn service? Well, because they've been screwed over by like 5 different smaller service providers with no brand recognition, no stability. And so, but kind of like a DoorDash and Uber and Airbnb, you come to GreenPal's website or app, it's normal. It's normal to put a card down. And we're not actually like charging that card. We're just pre-authorizing it. So it's kind of like booking a hotel on Expedia. When you book the hotel for your trip to where I'm from, Nashville, Expedia knows that your funds are there and it's good and you show up. And then when you check out is when you pay. GreenPal works in much that same way. And so people expect that when they're going through an app, they're going through the workflow on a piece of technology. I mean, quite frankly, to be able to order some DoorDash and then not have to put a credit card down. Could you imagine? Like, that's just asinine. A GreenPal kind of operates in the same dynamic. And so that's what protects service providers when they show up to mow the yard. They know if they do a good job, and they take care of their client, they'll get paid. Now, if they do a shitty job, they don't get paid. That's all there is to it. Like, if you do a crappy job and the person's not happy and they file a dispute, it's kind of like DoorDash, showing up and to the wrong house or not giving you your fries. I mean, as the consumer, you're not going to pay for that. And so there is some accountability on both sides. But if you're a good contractor and you do a good job week in, week out, take care of your clients, you get paid quickly. And that's why they like to use it.
How do you sort through that? You're making this podcast easy. I don't even have to hardly look at the sheet. We're just rolling right into it. So, okay. So contractor, there is a dispute. How does one side get to prove the other? And then how do you handle those disputes to make sure you keep the contractor and the customer happy?
So on a dispute process, we err on the side of the consumer. So contractor's job is to go above and beyond. If you're going to be in the lawn business, to your point, like, we go 90 days without getting paid. We bend over backwards in this industry to put a business together and keep folks happy. So our dynamic's no different. So as a contractor, you're going to have to please your customers. You're going to take care of them. And so you show up on the day you're supposed to, you do a good job, you upload a picture of it, and you actually mowed the correct yard, did front and back, edge, blue, did everything correctly. And then for whatever reason, homeowner files a dispute. They have to upload pictures of what went wrong. Show us what went wrong. And then the contractor has the ability to come back out and fix it, or they can say, you know what, it's not worth messing with, and they'll just cancel and walk away and not get paid. The homeowner can only file one dispute per year. So it's not like they can just keep coming back over and over and over again. Now, the dispute process is there for a reason, because a lot of times contractors will mow the wrong house, or it's like, hey, I know we said Tuesday, but it didn't, I couldn't make it Tuesday. And, you're supposed to leave the back gate unlocked. You didn't, but I showed up on Friday and I couldn't get in the backyard. I just mowed the front yard, but now I'm charging you for the full thing. We see that happen a lot. And homeowner disputes it. Well, until they come back and do the whole property, they don't pay. And so it goes on both sides. It protects both sides of the transaction. We get involved about 1% of 1%, like 0.1% of the transactions, where we have to really look at it and look at the images and talk to both sides and figure out what went wrong. But, at this point we're doing, 20, 30,000 transactions a week. We don't get involved much. The dispute process works out most of the time. And as a contractor, if you're getting a lot of disputes, it's because you're not doing a good job, or you're showing up on the wrong days, or you're not doing like the whole property. And a lot of times, if you just call the person and work it out with them, you can get paid. And then, 1 out of 100 times, there might be a bad actor on the consumer side, but they can only dispute one time per year.
You think I have to applaud you for letting, almost like having people only have that one dispute a year, so they use it wisely,
Yeah.
Where, because there's a value to the dispute. What you did was you placed a value on the dispute card. You basically said, hey, you can do this, and we understand nobody's perfect, but use it wisely. I think that was great. Kudos to you guys.
We didn't start there. We used to let homeowners dispute whenever they wanted, and it's kind of like you get to a 4-star hotel, but you have 5-star expectations, and you dispute whether you want to pay for your night stay or not. It's like, it got to be a little ridiculous, and we had to end up there. So it was very much through trial and error over a decade that we end up in a process that was very much self-serve, because it's very important to us. We're a very small team. We're only like 37 people, and we don't have a whole lot of customer support people. Like, in matter of fact, we have one. And so it's not our job to be like the arbiter of, did your lawn guy show up and do a good job? It's our job to build the technology to where it just runs smooth 99.9% of the time, which it does. It's just those like 0.10% of times that where it gets screwed up for whatever reason, we then have a dispute process to where it can work itself out. Kind of like eBay's dispute process. I would tell you the folks at eBay look at those disputes probably less than 1.0001% of the time. So we've built a self-serve dispute process that we think is fair for both sides. And the other point is you get one dispute a year, but the other thing is you only get 2 quotes per year. So it's not like you can go get quote after quote after quote after quote and just like keep trying to like hire different contractors every other week. We don't want that either. And so we really err on the side of the contractor. They got to really love it. It's got to be a party that they want to come to, because if not, they're not going to use it. And if they don't use it, then we don't have a product.
Explain the 2 quotes things to me, because I was kind of wondering that. So okay, so like if Langton Group was a contractor with GreenPal, you send me a site, I give you a quote, I say it's $40 to mow it, customer accepts, I go mow it. I mow it that one time, customer says they like their service, we stay with it, they're done. I'm assuming that's how it is. Okay.
Done. And that's what we're built for. We're really not built for anything other than that. Matter of fact, if much outside of that, we don't care. Like, we don't really want to be a part of that. It's like you hired a guy, he did a good job, you booked him for like 5 years. Like, that's what we're in the business of doing. We're not in the business of, he did pretty good, but I'm going to see if I can get somebody cheaper. That's not the business we're in. It's like, he did okay, but I really wish that he would come on Friday morning before 10. So I'm going to get quotes again. We're not in that business. And so really we're built for that use case you just laid out. And that's really all we care about. Now, sometimes contractors are not perfect, or they're just not good lawn business operators. Like, there's a lot of those, and we quickly screen those guys out and deplatform them. Get them out of the system, because they suck. And there's a lot of them. Probably 10% of contractors that sign up just flat out suck. And so we measure these folks rigorously and are always deplatforming the bottom 10%. So only the best get to use GreenPal and get to grow their business on GreenPal. And so if a homeowner has a genuine bad experience with a contractor, they showed up on the wrong day, or they didn't edge, or they were just rude, you got another quote. Boom, take another spin for quotes, hire another person. And here's the thing: if you can't find somebody you like with 2 tries in a season, our view is that you're probably, unrealistic, insatiable, or something screwed up about your yard. We see a lot of homeowners with just yards full of dog crap. Like, it's just full of dog crap, and nobody wants to mow those. And so contractors will say, hey, I'm not going to pick up the dog crap. And then they'll just like, well, I'll just get somebody else. And then the other person comes out, it's like, no, I'm not picking all that up either. And it's like, there's no reason to send a third person or a fourth or a fifth. That's just going to piss off 5 people. We already pissed off 2. There's no reason to piss off 5.
I mean, listen, I've got to tell you, before I learned about your product, I was kind of like, okay, how are they kind of succeeding and growing so rapidly in the marketplace? But what you're doing is you're setting expectations, and you're setting expectations to the contractor and to the consumer. And the expectation is this, you said it before, don't have 5-star expectations at a 4-star hotel,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the people that have the 5-star expectation likely aren't going to use GreenPal. They're going to have a full service maintenance contract where we're doing mulch and we're bed edging, and they're direct contractor. But the people that want, they're the staying at the red roof. They're calling GreenPal. They're getting somebody set up, mow, blow, and go, and they're set up and they're good, right? That's pretty much what it is.
Yep. La Quinta Inn, Red Roof, Comfort Inn, Best Western is our customer. And I'm willing to bet those companies have a bigger market cap than Four Seasons. And, and so like the market is in the masses, and that's what we're going after. It's our job to make that Red Roof Inn customer profitable to the contractor. And we make it profitable in such a way that their experience is modulated. Like, you have to stay inside these tolerances to use it on both sides. And so, like, sign up, this is what's included, weekly every 2 weeks, show up on this day, get paid. And you do 200 or 300 of those, now you got a business. Whereas if you had to do 200 or 300 of those pen and pad, or even on like yard books or some other CRM, you still got to like bean count this stuff. GreenPal automates it all to where you can make a living doing these $35 stops now. that's the business we're in. That's what we focus on. If you're spending $8,000 a year on landscape maintenance, you need to hire like the best company in town and have an account manager and have them walk the property with you while you have a cocktail in your hand. That ain't our business. That ain't our customer.
So we have a lot of cocktail walkers at Langton. So that is what happens. It's funny to bring up the cocktail in hand. So
Yeah.
so do you do anything in like in the winter months then for in those markets? Like, do you do the same thing for snow services, or is it just lawn cutting?
Yeah. Like every, the seasonality of the business is one of the many challenges. We don't flatline during December, January, and February, but we do take about a 50% cut in overall revenue. Markets like Florida, Texas, California, Southern California are year round, which is great. We're big in those cities. But we last year built on we basically built GreenPal again, but for snow removal. And we did it for really one reason. We didn't think that we could make any money at it. We only did it just to stay relevant in a PR standpoint. So PR is a big part of what we do. My co-founder, all he does is PR, and he's been on TV something like 300 times in the last 3 years. Your local ABC channel, your local NBC channel. You can Google Gene Caballero GreenPal and just go on YouTube and see 200 or 300 videos where he's been on some local media. So we figured nobody wants to talk about lawn mowing, December, January, February, but they'll talk about snow removal. So we literally spent $500,000 building GreenPal all over again, but for snow removal services. So homeowner signs up, puts their address in. Here's the square footage of the driveway. Here's how much it's going to be for 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches. Okay, order the service. Okay, they came out and did it. Here's a picture. Pay them. Like all this shit. It was all those workflows we had to build again for web and mobile, and it was a tremendous undertaking, and it worked. Because we were on TV like 70 times last winter, which I think was a particularly bad winter. So that might have been, we got lucky. But my co-founder is kind of funny. Like he only stays at Holiday Inn Express because Holiday Inn Express has a free pancake machine, and so you can get free pancakes fresh out of this machine, and so he's like a Holiday Inn Express value member, and so he's all the time on the road. Boston, New Hampshire, New York City, Columbus, Ohio, Chicago, talking about Uber for snow removal. And I talk about this in a lot of my other podcasts. People are like, well, how did y'all do so well at PR? And I'm like, until you love pancakes from the Holiday Inn Express pancake machine, don't even think about doing a local PR strategy, because that's what it's going to take. You're going to have to go to these markets and talk to the media. And that's what he does. That's all he does.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, it takes a lot of people to make it all click, and different personalities. That's
absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely. I ain't gonna do that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed that you came on the podcast, though. This is PR, right?
I love podcasts. I love podcasts, but I'm not going to Omaha, Nebraska, and staying at the Holiday Inn Express to go talk to Fox News Omaha. I'm not doing that. My co-founder Gene, he's the man for that. I'll come on podcasts all day long. I love doing them.
I'm assuming it's just because you don't like pancakes, then.
No, I love pancakes. I love pancakes. I just don't like Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah. So I think the business is great. Obviously, it sounds like a successful business model. I can literally hear and see the enthusiasm and the passion, through the audio, and obviously, I see your picture right up in front of me here. So, but in the show, I like to get familiar with the people behind the company, so it kind of explain to us who you were growing up, take me from your childhood to where you are now. Tell me about your family. Let's get a little personal here. So
yeah. So grew up outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Had some good parents. My dad forced me into the business. Came into my room one day in the late 80s, early 90s. I'm 41 years old. And he said, I was playing Super Mario Brothers. He said, hey, get off your ass. You got a gig. You're going to go mow the neighbor's grass. And made me go cut the neighbor's grass. And luckily he did that, because I made like $20. And I was like, this is great. I don't have to hassle my folks for money anymore. And so the first thing I did after that is I went to my old school desktop computer, Microsoft Works at the time, made some flyers the best I could at 12 years old, and passed them out all over the neighborhood. Into that first summer, I had like 20 customers I was push mowing yards for, and making $500 a week in the early 90s, 12 years
Yeah.
old. It was awesome. And I always had like more cash than my friends, saved up a bunch of money, bought my first car. And then after like a year of that, sold it and got a Dodge Ram truck. At age 17 in 1997, I had a $30,000 truck, which I guess in today's money would be like 60 or 80 grand. It's crazy. But I got it.
You'd have like a King Ranch or a Laramie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got that mowing yards. It was, I mean, it wasn't like any rocket science. I just hustled and got a helper in high school and then went to college all at night. And the only reason I went to college is because my mom was a professor there. And I didn't really want to let her down. I didn't want to like be a college dropout. And so I stuck with it, but all at night and mowed grass all day. And it took me 7 years to get through undergrad. Graduated with a business degree. By the time I graduated college, I had 5 employees doing probably 300 grand a year, maybe 400 grand a year. And I remember this very clearly. I had to make a decision. Was I going to go into the job market and like take a pay cut or stick with this lawn mowing business? And I literally I did not want to be a lawn guy my whole life. That was not what I wanted to do. But I thought, well, I don't really have a whole lot of other options, and this could be my lane. This could be the thing that I could really like double down on and make something of myself. And I was lucky in a sense that I grew up in a suburb outside of Nashville, which was just red hot. I mean, the population doubled from 50 to 100,000 people, and then like 100 to 200,000 in like 20 years, and like it was just growing. And so I was part of a growing community outside of Nashville, and I thought, well, I'm going to see what I can do with this, and made a business plan and yada, 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 a lot of highs and lows, built that into one of the larger landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee. Eventually over 10 million in revenue, 150 people, and ended up selling it. So that's like 20 years, in the industry in 60 seconds. But that's how I grew up. That's how I came up. Very blue collar, graduated college with like a 2.8, not a smart guy. And the only reason I did that was just because my mom was a professor there. I don't really tell a lot of entrepreneurs or founders that you got to go to college. I don't think you do. It really didn't do much. Really didn't do much for me, to be honest.
So first of all, Brian, I got to interrupt you. I don't think you should say anymore. You're really not a smart guy. You started a business. You sold it at $10 million. You sold that. Then you came out of retirement, started another business. Stop telling people you're not a smart guy. You're a smart guy.
What I like to say is that if I can do it, anybody can do it. I don't have anything special. Whether if you want to start a 8-figure service-based business and just work your ass off doing that, you can definitely do it. Look at me and then be inspired to know that you can do it.
Well, I mean, it's very inspiring. Hearing you talk about your childhood, it's like we have so many things in common. The same type of thing. But the going back, there's definitely no regrets now. You said you didn't want to be in the lawn care industry, but here you sit, you're still in the lawn care industry, just
still am
in a different spot of it,
It's no more glamorous. It's no more glamorous from this standpoint than it was when I was holding a Shindawa weed eater. I mean, it's like, man, I think the least sexy your business, the better your chances of success. And that's one of the great things about the lawn care, landscaping, green industry is like, you're under the radar, I mean, it's like, it's not glamorous. So just work your tail off and you can do something. That's what's looking back in the rear view and seeing other folks crash and burn and other more glamorous business ideas. I think the least glamorous and more blue collar your business, the better off you're going to be to build something successful.
Well, I mean, here, let's look at it. Lawn maintenance is proven to be recession proof. I mean, seriously, I mean, look at when everything hit, mid 2000s, and people were all complaining. I mean, I grew my company like exponentially
Yep.
during that time because it's something no one wants to do. Look at COVID. I mean, COVID, most landscape companies went through the roof. We were seen as an essential service between snow removal and landscaping. So I totally agree with what you said. And to expand even further, I don't know if you've ever dealt with this in your life, but you know, obviously you're a successful man, and you'll meet other successful people, and they'll ask, for me personally, like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I own a landscape and service company. And they're like, wait, you're a landscaper? Like, no one can actually fathom
Can't
those
fathom it.
businesses being successful, which
Yep.
is good for us because they don't get in the business.
Yep.
You've got all
Exactly.
these people that go to college to get into business, and our business is not sexy enough for them to even look into it.
Yep, exactly. And the other thing I see too is guys that look, you don't have to build a multiple 7-figure business in the landscaping business. You can stay at 500, 750K, just stay super profitable, and then reinvest in more durable investments like real estate or even just the FANG stocks or whatever, and just make money, put money to work, make more money. You don't have to have a million headaches like I had running my first company. And you can do that in most any service-based business. Like this stuff is not hard. Just got to be willing to work hard. And it's going to be 7 days a week for 5 years, but hey, time's going to pass anyway. You might as well build something.
No, absolutely. So you said your mom was a professor. What did she actually teach then?
Yeah, she's retired now. PhD in English literature. So not going to school and not graduating was just not an option. I had to do it. And I guess looking back, I learned a lot in college in terms of how to communicate in writing, and a little bit of marketing, a little bit of professionalism. I was able to bring an element of professionalism to the landscaping business in my little market that just wasn't there. And maybe college was the thing that leveled me up to do that. But this day and age with YouTube University, podcasts like this one, audio books like on Audible, I don't think you have to go to college. I think it's very much I really think it's very much a consumption decision and not an investment decision. I think it's like 4 or 5 years to go party and get an experience, and not one that's going to like prepare you for success in life. That's kind of the way I view it.
No, that's totally it. I mean, if you have the ability to self-educate in today's world of technology, I mean, like you just said, between Google and YouTube and everything else that's out there, you can learn everything. I mean, I've often said, like, even look at encyclopedias and all stuff that you would see in schools or libraries. You can basically see all that same thing just by Googling
Yep.
the question, and it comes right up. So yeah, if you're
Here's
willing
the
to
caveat.
self-educate.
Here's one caveat. I see a lot of gurus and influencers basically writing off the 20s. Like your 20s don't matter. Just go. Like, don't worry about it. You got time. Find yourself. Maybe travel. Don't worry about your 20s. Baloney. Your 20s are foundational. You have to get on first base or second base in your 20s. So then you can like get the home plate on your 30s and 40s. You like anybody's listening to this that's in their 20s, like grind, hustle, work your face off during your 20s, because that's what's going to tee you up later on to do bigger moves, to swing for the fences. And then the other thing is too, is like, don't listen to this and say, and here, don't go to college. Like if you're from 18 to 23, if you're not going to like go start a business that's going to get to 500K in revenue, then go to college, because you're not going to do anything anyway. You might as well at least get an education. But in lieu of going to college, you're going to start a business, anything, home cleaning, block laying, roofing, construction, remodeling, property management, restaurant, whatever, software. You're much better off doing that if you're going to pour your soul into that. But if you're not going to do that, go to college. At least you'll get a degree.
And Brian, I'm glad you said that. You hit it right on the head, because and I don't know if you've wondered this yourself, but for all of my life so far, you said you're 41, I'm 42. People are always like, wait, how old are you? And there's a certain, when you get out and you hustle right out of the gate and you're rolling, there's a lot of people that are like, the whole wise beyond your years thing, or you're out hustling everybody. But you hit a point in time where you're just one of the other successful people in the room then,
Yeah,
so that's one of the things that I always say too, uh if you're young and successful, you get noticed way more than the middle-aged successful person because people expect it at that point, right?
absolutely. And one of the best books I ever read was Warren Buffett's was the autobiography of Warren Buffett called The Snowball Effect. And like Warren Buffett, like second or third richest man in the world now, started off with a $500 investment. Like these things start small, but they take time. But once the compounding starts kicking in, then it gets really big and it gets really interesting. You've got to start that early. You got to start that in your 20s. And to your point, yeah, it gets to a point where it's almost easier. You can work circles around your contemporaries that are twice your age. And, starting my first company, I was selling six-figure contracts at age 23. And I had to like grow a beard and look older. And I practiced like talking deeper on the phone and stuff like that. Like I literally had to do that because I couldn't just walk into like an office complex and try to sell them on some $250,000 contract as a 23-year-old kid. Unless I like let them believe maybe I was 30, which I did a lot of that. And so anybody that's in their 20s listening to this, bull crap, your 20s are critical to how the rest of your life is going to play out.
No, for sure. So, any sports? Did you play any sports when you were going in high school or anything like that? Or
Yeah. I played soccer. I was goalkeeper. I played really at a competitive level, and then I started to play in college. My first year, played a little bit the first semester, and then I gave it up because I just really wanted to focus on my business, and the sports was more of like a part-time job. Looking back, I think that was the right call. I mean, because then I'd just be like, would to be delayed another 4 years, and maybe have missed an opportunity. But yeah, sports are interesting, man. Like it really taught me a lot about people and a lot about leadership and a lot about just how things work in the real world. I think I don't have kids, but if I did, I think I'd try to drive them to start a business. But if not, at least play a sport. Because I played really competitive soccer for a long time.
yeah, yeah, I don't think I've ever asked an entrepreneur if they played a sport and had somebody tell me no, to be honest with you. I think that
It's interesting.
I think that there's really something to be said and learned about. I feel like if you can be part of the team sport, or even if it's not, I mean, I guess all sports technically are kind of team sports. I mean, even wrestling, you're out there, it's you and the mat, but you're keeping, it's scored for the team, right? There's a certain amount of accountability to the people around you, and you're going to trust others are going to do their job, right? Like you were a goalie in soccer, but you're right. You're trusting the defenders are going to make it where you're not putting it all on your shoulders. So
Exactly.
I think there's a lot to be said there. So you said you don't have any kids. So, outside of your work life, what do you do, now, like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're being in the game for as long as you are, you're making a good balance for yourself.
Yeah. At this point, I do have a good balance. The first few years, 4 or 5 years, started GreenPal were 7 days a week. There was no balance. So that's kind of something that I'll put out there. This concept of work-life balance in the early days, I think you really kind of have to like skew towards imbalance into getting the business going. Once you get some momentum going, get the flywheel rolling, I think you can kind of pull back and get some balance back in check in terms of keeping in shape and in your family life and all these other things. But for the first 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, shoot, we didn't take a paycheck. It was very much 6 and 7 days a week. It was doing all the work ourselves and figuring out how to delegate it little by little. But now here a decade in, 30 something people working for the company, every one of them is smarter than me in some way. And so I got specialists in place doing things that they're good at. It's not that I like can pull back and just, I'm on cruise control, but I don't have to work 80, 90 hours a week anymore. I might work 30 hours or less, but really good quality hours. And so now, I really enjoy mentoring. I do mentoring for free as a hobby in Nashville. I have about a dozen entrepreneurs that I mentor for free and love seeing them grow and succeed. That's a lot of fun. I do some volunteering. I do I do weird stuff like salsa dancing. I've taken classes in learning how to salsa dance, which has taught me a lot about life, how you can't learn anything until you just get out there and do it. I do Muay Thai boxing as for fun to keep in shape. I run a lot. I lift weights. So I keep in shape. Families are critical. Love traveling. I travel probably at least 4 months out of the year, maybe 5 or 6 to different countries all over the world. I'm able to grow GreenPal just from anywhere with an internet connection. We're a totally distributed team, which is cool. But that's what makes me tick. I'm not married, never been married, no kids. Maybe that might change, but for me, like my business has always been kind of the heartbeat of my life and the thing that lends like interesting story to my life, and that's certainly still the case now.
I, I think it's funny when you brought up the work-life balance, and one of the things, some of my closest friends, and specifically my neighbor is one of my closest friends, and he he literally had to set a rule so that I wouldn't talk about shop like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because you just when you love what you do, you can't help yourself. So like I could be hanging out, I could be at a football game, and
Still thinking
I
about it.
can't. I'm still thinking about it, you know. So
Yeah.
I think like my good friend Austin, who was on the show episodes ago, said, work-life balance. It's really what balances you. I mean, if the balance feels good for you, you're balanced.
Yeah.
And if you start to feel off balance, well, take a day, take a couple days and recoup and get back to it. So I think that's important to say or to make people understand there. I don't believe there is a balance, a true balance. What's your balance? That's what it comes
Yeah.
down to, right? Um, I love the fact that you're into mentoring. I think that's quite frankly the reason I started the podcast too. It feels great to get to a point, right, where you can kind of give back to what you're doing and kind of see that same passion in people's eyes that you have, and start to hang around those people. So where's your favorite place you've traveled? You say you're traveling a
Ooh,
lot, so let's talk about
yeah.
that right now.
Oh man. So I'm actually traveling right now. I'm in Barcelona, Spain. And I gotta tell you, man, Spain's got it going on. I'm a big,
Really?
huge capitalist. I'm a huge capitalist. Um, but you see kind of some socialist uh stuff going on in Spain. You're like, damn, it's working out here. I don't know. It's something weird. It's really cool. It's really neat. It's weird. It's a little different. Yeah, the food's great. The culture's cool. The architecture's amazing. It's clean. It's organized. It's just really neat, unlike anything I've ever seen. So Spain's cool. I like South America. I speak pretty good Spanish. Colombia is a cool country. Argentina, those are Mexico, and then Australia. I've been to probably 50 countries in the last 3 years. So traveling is a big passion of mine. And the fact that I can run my company and grow it, 30, 40% a year while getting the travel, it means a lot to me because the first 15 years of my business, it was very much like if I went away for more than 3 days, I would come back to like a crater, a smoldering crater of what was a company once. Like I had to be there all the time to just hold it together. So,
Yeah.
so I architected GreenPal in such a way that I didn't have to do that again.
So do you have any desire to expand GreenPal outside of the United States, or you're happy in the States and that's it?
Yeah, no, we definitely will. So we're doing over 20 million a year in revenue. We need to get to 100 million, and we can do 100 million in the States easily. And so once we start knocking on that in the States, we'll then expand to Canada, UK, Australia. But it's like a lot of times, you're better off just doing more of what's already working than rather than trying to do something different. And so we haven't reached the point of diminishing returns in the United States yet. And one of the key points of evidence is like we have 10 top cities that constitute 90% of all of the revenue. So it's like Seattle, Washington is not a huge market for us, and because it's just one that we rolled out like a year ago. And so we have a St. Louis, Missouri that's doing 1,000 transactions, a week. And we have a Seattle that's doing 200. Well, we need to get Seattle on at least St. Louis's level because it's a bigger city. We should be able to. So it's like there's all these like points of evidence that we just need to keep doubling down and growing each market one by one in the States. once we reach a point of saturation, then we'll move into Canada, UK, and Australia. You wouldn't think it'd be hard to do that, but it actually is. There's some weird stuff when you cross that imaginary line.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, the United States is such a large market also. And, I feel like, I mean, even for me, like with the robotic mowing, when I look at it and when you look at Europe and you look at actual countries, are the size of our states. It really puts into perspective
It really does.
how much of an opportunity we have in the United States
Yep.
to
Yep.
grow our businesses.
California is the 4th or 5th largest economy in the world. Don't take that lightly.
Yeah.
Don't take that lightly. Don't go to London just because you want to go to London.
Say you were there to put the flag in that. Yeah, exactly.
Who cares? You're not ubiquitous in LA. Don't go to London until you're just crushing the States. Now there's nuances. If you're a travel company, yeah, you gotta be intercontinental. But if you're just running a straight up service, dominate the homeland before you try to go overseas.
Yeah. So did you stay in touch? I'm only asking this question. It's a little off topic, but when you sold your company, all your old employees, did any of them come with you, or any of them at GreenPal now, or are they all still kind of where they were when the company got bought out?
Yeah, no, there was pretty hard non-compete when I sold that business. So I didn't have access to anybody. I'm still friends with a lot of the guys that worked there. That was one of the things that I took pride in was the personal family culture that I had with those folks. And guys that have worked for 10 and 15 years are still working for the new company now 8-9 years later. So I'm still friends with a lot of these guys. But no, none of them came over to the new company, and not that there would have been any place for them anyway. We were a landscaping company.
Yeah.
Now I'm hiring software engineers. It's very different. Yeah. But no, even if I wanted to, I would have gotten my eyeballs sued out for that.
I would imagine it had to be hard. I know for me, especially in my landscape business, because and just in talking to you for an hour, I can kind of feel like we have similar personalities. So was it hard for you to walk away from those relationships?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. 10, 15 years, this becomes your family. And you spend more time with them than you do your family or your spouse. And so that was really tough. And there was an existential crisis thing too, where it's okay, a lot of my personal identity was wrapped up in the business and my pride that I took in running it. And now, I no longer have it. It's no longer my baby. And it's really difficult going through that. It's one that I didn't anticipate. And, it's kind of you're married to the love of your life for 20 years. And then all of a sudden a new man moves in the house and he's now her husband. But it's your job to still sit there and live in the house with them and try to explain to him what she likes, but he doesn't listen. That's how I describe it. It was really bizarre.
So first of all, I think that's a great analogy. I mean,
yeah.
I constantly, just wonder what that would feel like. Cause I find myself wondering if I could ever do it.
That's
right?
what it feels like. That's
what
it feels like. If you're married, imagine another man coming into your house. Now he's married to your wife and you get to explain to him everything that she likes and doesn't like, but he doesn't listen.
Well, exactly.
And then he's pissed off. He's wondering why she's pissed off.
Well, and I constantly wonder if I'd be able to watch from afar and not just get myself re-immersed anyways and be let me tell you how to get this.
You get to watch it all too.
Yeah. So no regrets though, right? I mean,
no.
A period where you regretted it or no?
No regrets. If I had stayed in that business, I easily could have made another $4 or $5 million and put on top of my net worth in it, just with the economic boom that's occurred since then. Still no regrets, because I am a totally different person today than I was, when I sold that company. And that's one of the cool things about running a business is that if you're doing it right, it's going to cause you to level up every 2 or 3 years. It's going to cause you to evolve in a totally different new person, totally different, more humble, wiser, sharper, smarter person with new capabilities, new things. And to me, that's really kind of what I was missing running that company. I kind of plateaued as far as that was concerned. And so no regrets. And now I'm piloting depending on how you look at it, $50-100 million business. And so this caused me to be able to get into the next level. And so looking back now, I'm very glad that I did what I did.
Mhm. Well, congratulations on that. I think it's inspiring. I think that you know, hopefully, so I just that part intrigues me, because you don't get a chance very often to talk to other 40-year-old people that have sold their business and started something else and had to leave one in the rearview mirror to, like you said, level up to the next one. What do you think it is that was it the process of the sale? Was it getting yourself out of those day-to-day things that allowed your imagination to run wild again? What do you think it is that allowed you to go from the one that was at 10 million and now being in this 50 to $100 million business?
Yeah. So it's like a realization that you're in a video game, and you got 10 levels of Super Mario Brothers, and you're on level 1, and you just got to get through level 1, get to level 2, get to level 2, get to level 3. And in those first 3 levels, you can't worry about Bowser. And you really just need to throw everything you got into getting into the next level, however you define that. And then you get to level 10, and you beat Bowser, and you throw up the flag, you save Princess, and it's great. And then you stay like on level 10 for 3 years, and maybe you fight Bowser over and over again, and it's not fun anymore. And you want Super Mario Brothers 2. And that's how it felt for me. It's like I had beaten the game, and it's not that I had the biggest, most successful landscaping business of all time. I certainly didn't. But for me, it felt that way. Like I had built a big, profitable company. It was one of the biggest ones in my market. I had conquered and slayed all the dragons in that business 100 times over, and it was no longer fun and interesting. And so Super Mario Brothers 1 was beaten, done, behind me. It was time to play Super Mario Brothers 2. And so now I'm like on maybe, I don't know, level 5 of Super Mario Brothers 2. And I still have a long way to go, and I'm having fun doing it. It's interesting. It's cool. And I'm going to keep running this business that I'm running now as long as I'm having fun and enjoying doing it.
Brian, that was an awesome analogy. I will say I was the whole time I was thinking about it when I was playing Super Mario. Then it turned into how quick I could beat it versus how, because that's really what it gets to be, right? You get a $10 million business, and then you're just trying to make it more and more profitable. So it's like you're achieving success, and how do you achieve success at a better level, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, that really breaks it down. And yeah, that's awesome. So this is the time of the show where I ask people what you want your legacy to be. Then so you're obviously you're crushing it. You're growing your business. You're traveling. You're living, and as my daughter would say, your best life. So so what do you want? And you're mentoring people. So what do you want Brian's legacy to be?
Yeah. It's like a lot of times you can ask yourself this question: if it wasn't for me, X, if it wasn't for me, then what? And your business can be the answer to that question. And so for me, my businesses have always been the answer for that question. Like if it wasn't for me, then what would happen? And so in my business, like there's 2,000 or 3,000 lawn care services that use the app to run their whole livelihood. So if I screwed up and didn't like come to work next week and didn't like do that for a long period of time, it would screw that up for those several thousand service providers. So I take that very seriously, and like I am the steward of how they make a living. And so I guess my legacy, like if I died tomorrow, there might be some people that came to my funeral and said, you know what, yeah, that guy didn't have to help me, but he did. And or you know what, I knew that guy, and I went into business with him, and my life was better for it. Or you know what, I asked that guy for some advice, and he helped me through something to see it differently. And so it's like that's what I would like my legacy to be. It's like I helped some people get to where they were trying to go, and my success trailed with that. And that's a Tony Robbins thing. It's like, if you focus on other people's success, your success will follow. That's very much how I look at business. I look at trying to lift other people up, and then I get to go with them. And that could mean anything from like mentoring somebody for free to building a platform to where somebody can make 50 grand, 100 grand, 250 grand a year mowing lawns on top of our technology.
Ryan, that's a great legacy to have. I think I think there'll be I think you're going to do very well, and you're going to continue to do well. Hopefully, next time you're in Chicago or in the area, you'll hit me up, and we can actually meet in person, and we can go and enjoy some Chicago deep dish or whatever you want to eat, and we can carry on this build a relationship. But I appreciate your time. I think what you're doing is great, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Joe. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.